for the rest of this lesson is basically to light it up and take it up into After Effects to compile into our final movie. I won't be talking too much about AE. Once again, right, these are all like external programs that deserve a whole class or module on its own. So to have like just 1 hour for me to cover AE is crazy. Okay, so I'm just gonna deal with the bare minimum of how to put together a video, but you will need to research how to do the title page, and if you want additional effects, right? Okay, it's your job to find out more. All right, so that's the whole point about multimedia classes, right? Is that there's just too much to learn in 3 years. So in order to be a better artist yourself, you have to get into the habit of trying out things on your own. Okay, like getting curious about like how do I create smoke, and then you just go and find out and just try, right? There's tons of tutorials online, so it's not like in our time whereby we are stuck, we have to go and look for books and things like that. Okay, so you are in a very fortunate time of Google, so let Google be your best teacher in learning all the more advanced things. So what's the purpose of school? School is basically to give you a very quick start in like all the programs that you need to know. Because if you were to self-learn, right, you have to find out what is the program out there, or if I want to do 3D, what are the programs out there, what's the program that all the industries use, that kind of thing. And then if you want to do painting, you must find out which program. So everything is like very slow. So school is kind of like a very quick intro to all the basic things that you need to know. But advanced things, right, is still up to you guys to push yourself. Okay, no school is able to provide that kind of deep advanced stuff unless you go into very specialized courses, like you take just modeling and like certification in a certain software. Then yes, you can go very deep into that. Okay, anyway, 3-point lighting. So what is 3-point lighting? Have you guys heard of it before? In photography? Anyone do photography? Yes? No? Still very new, right? Okay, 3-point. Maybe I draw it in Photoshop so that those who are watching the video, right, they can see what the hell I'm drawing. I notice when I edit, whatever I draw on the board, none of you can see. So let me just start up a 2K map. Right, so I'm just gonna draw a character with my brush. Okay, just a quick one. Let's say we have an object of interest. Alright, okay, so this is my rocket ship, or this is my character, for example. 3-point lighting is very useful for showcasing stuff in a photo because the camera doesn't move. Alright, 3-point lighting doesn't exactly work when the camera starts moving, or when the character turns, it's still okay to use 3-point lighting. But if they start to move across the screen, or they start to be animated, or camera shifts, that's when 3-point lighting doesn't work. So it's more for showing off your work. Even in digital painting, right, you can actually apply that 3-point lighting in your work. Okay, so what it does is that it's always based on your camera. So let's say I have my camera. Okay, let's say I have my camera here. Alright. Facing my character directly. Whoa, so horrible. It's very hard to play with my mouse. Okay, let's say this is my camera, okay, and it's facing my character like this. Alright. And 3-point lighting basically is something, is 3 lights. One is a key light. So let me just put in a key light here. Okay, so you want a key light that is shining at 45 degrees from your camera. Okay, I'm not going to write anything, alright? So 45 degrees from your camera, this will provide the main lighting and shadow. Alright? Whoa, it's really, really bad. Okay, so you have a key light that will provide a cast shadow, okay, and kind of like, it's like the sun, right? So you're determining the main light for your object. Okay, next would be a fill light. So I'm just gonna choose another awful color. Let's make this a kind of primary school kind of drawing. Okay, so I have a fill light that comes in here. In the direct opposite direction, okay? And what it does is that it will fill in the dark shadows. So when you have a bright shadow, when you have a bright light that is coming in this direction here, everything here will be completely black in 3D. In 3D, right, your world does not have a single light. In real life, even though we turn off all the lights, there's still a little bit of light coming in from elsewhere, right? So it's kind of like bounce lights coming in from outside, okay? So you can still sort of see your friend in the dark. But if you go into a cave, right, it's completely black. So that's the idea. 3D is like a completely black world, unless you put in light. So we have a key light to cast the very first light and shadow. We have a fill light to fill in some lighting for the place that's completely black, so that you can still see some details here, okay? And the last light at the back, this is the special one. This is what we call the rim light. I'm just going to put a yellow color light here. So this is what we call a rim light. It's something that shines on your hair, makes your hair extremely white, or it makes like this very thin outline on your silhouette, right, that will push you from the background. So you actually look like you are shiny. So what do I mean by that? Let's just Google 3-point lighting, okay? So you can see very clearly where the camera is. 45 degree, you have a key, you have a fill, and then you have a rim light coming from the back. Or actually you can angle it any way you want, right? So that you can show where that very nice highlight is. So it's a nice. Okay, you see this rim light here? Sometimes you might see in film, actually they will create a very harsh lighting that is kind of like just shining off the hair, okay, and shining off the arm. It's a very sharp, thin line. They might even use a colored light. See this? It's a rim light here that's slightly blue in color. Okay, so it's just a very thin thing to kind of separate it from the background. See this sheen here? Okay, so these are all rim lightings, or backlight we call it. Yep. So let's go ahead and just try it out in 3D. I think it will make a lot more sense. So if you press 7 on your keyboard, okay, you're gonna see that it's completely black, right? So 1, 2, 3, 1 is standard view. Okay, 2 is standard view, 2 is hybrid, 3 is smooth mode, correct? That's depending on what you select. 4 is wireframe. So 4 onwards is kind of like a panel wide view. 5 is shaded, 6 is texture, 7 is lighting. So let's cast the very first light, okay, which is our key light. So let's go to create lights, and we want to choose the simplest light of them all, which is directional light. Okay, so you can go ahead and explore the rest of the lighting on your own time. Basically, a point light, right, is a light that is like a point in space. It shines in all directions. It's like a light bulb. It's a point. Okay, a spotlight is, you know, like a theatrical stage lighting. So we have like a light that shines in a certain direction. It's like a spot lighting, and then you can actually adjust the size of the circle, how big or small you want the light to be. So those are spotlights or stage lighting. Area light is kind of like a rectangle of light. It's like a window where you have a huge like rectangle, and then the light is coming from outside. So that's what area light is used for. And area light is usually used for very nice product shoots, you know, those very big umbrella lighting. Okay, so you can kind of explore that. Volume light and ambient light is not really used that often. They are very special lightings to use. Actually, ambient light is used in a very small degree. So I won't talk too much about that. Seriously, you just gotta go and explore. What we're looking at is directional light. Now, directional light, just as how it's being named, right? It does not matter where you move it or how big it is. You see that? Nothing changes when I scale it up. Nothing changes when I move it anywhere else. Okay, so I can actually just easily move it out of my donut so that I can see. So it doesn't matter, but what changes is the rotation. Once you start rotating it, right, it's going to change the lighting direction. So it's acting like the sun. You know, the sun itself is very huge, right? And it's very far away in space. Yet, if you think about it, right, yet the light can reach Earth. So how strong that light is, okay, it can actually reach like quite a couple of planets, okay, just from the sun alone, which is in the middle. So the directional light itself is the sun. It does not really decay in the sense that the lighting does not lose its power on Earth. Okay, on Earth everything is relatively bright at the same rate, correct? So it does not die out so soon. Not like your table lamp. Your table lamp, if you try and shine further, or your torchlight, if you try and shine further, you actually cannot really see it, correct? So, but directional light, it doesn't die out. Okay, so it only affects the rotation. So, let's open up two panels, shall we? So, click on the third box here. And we will change one panel to perspective. The other panel will change to camera 1. So make sure your camera 1, right, just scrub your timeline so it snaps back to your view. We want to use the perspective view to adjust our lighting. And we want to use our camera 1 to see the end result. So when you have two panels like this, right, it's very easy to see how it looks like at the end of the day. Okay, so make sure under panels, you change one to camera 1, the other one to perspective. So I'm going to cast my very first light. Okay, you want to angle it in such a way that it has a very nice cast shadow. If you cannot see your shadow, right, create a plane on the ground. Let's create some ground at the bottom. I just create a polygon plane, and you want to turn on the shadow. So once you create a cast shadow, right, with like a little bit of polygon on the ground, you can actually have a better feedback of how to position your key light, because cast shadow is very much part of the image. It gives you as much information as the object itself. So you want to kind of angle the cast shadow. If you see, if you do a cast shadow that's like this, where it's very long and it takes up a lot of the image, it's very, very ugly. It doesn't complement your picture at all. If you do a cast shadow that is behind, right, like this, you don't really see much of your object being placed on the floor. The cast shadow itself will tell the viewer that it is on the floor. So if your cast shadow is behind your object, technically you can't really see that it's on the floor. So again, it's not a good angle for your key light. So you want it to be on the floor where you can see, and maybe angle it to the side a little bit. That's why I said 3-point lighting, right? It's very reliant on the camera angle. So if your camera moves, right, 3-point lighting is not that effective for displaying. You might want to use multiple lights. So for animation, right, they use a lot of lights, and each character have their own lighting. So you can see character 1, right, has lights following them, that kind of thing. So it's a different lighting setup from products. Okay, so we're gonna just angle our cast shadow so it's not too distracting. Alright, and in your channel box, so click on the layers. Okay, this button here that will open up your channel box, and I'm gonna give it a quick name called key light. Very important to name all your stuff. Like what I say, if you don't name, right, after a while you don't know which light is which. So you'll notice the moment you put lighting in your scene, right, the hardened edges here, remember we hardened some of the edges, it starts to become very visible. Correct? Once lighting comes in, you can see the hard lines and the soft lines a lot more. Okay, so once we have this, let's adjust the shadow, shall we? So the shadow itself looks very fake, very 3D, very hard, very black, right? So let's go into our settings for our key light so that we can adjust how the shadow looks like, and maybe the intensity of the light itself. I think the light might be a bit too intense. Okay, so let's go to our attribute editor. Remember the third button from the top. So we have layers, we have attribute editor, right? So click on this. So it opens up the attributes, and it straight away goes into the key light shape, which is what we want to use. The first tab is for the position. Okay, the second tab is to adjust the light itself. So it's called shape. And let's open up the shadows. So you can actually change the intensity of the light. You can change the color itself. I'm going to leave it as default first. Okay, the shadow, we are going to turn on something called use depth map shadows. In your video tutorial, I used ray trace. Actually, ray trace don't exactly work in the current Maya. Okay, because later on you'll know why. There's this render engine that we use to generate the final image. With your default Maya, it does not have this new renderer called Anode. Anode is like it's like a new engine that calculates the final image. You need a special license for that. That means you need to buy additional license in order to use the industry standard rendering engine. So for school and for your own personal use, right, you don't have that license. So we're going to use Maya's inbuilt engine to generate the image. So it's with the Maya default, right, you are not able to use ray trace shadows. What's ray trace shadows, and what's the big deal, right, when we can use something called depth map? Ray trace shadows, anything that's ray trace, right, is able to calculate very nice reflection, soft shadows, um, special effects like water. You know, you can see how the image bends in water. So all this requires like Arnold, very special rendering engine that do a lot of calculation, light bouncing, how it takes colors with it. Like for example, if you wear a very bright colored shirt and you stand by a white wall, right? You notice the wall is a little bit colored from your shirt. Okay, you can try that at home. Okay, you just stand beside a white wall wearing like a neon orange shirt. You can actually see your neon orange on the wall itself. That's because the light in, was it in physics or chemistry? Physics, right? Or sec 1 or 2 science. Okay, whereby light has rainbow colors, right? The prism. So what it does is that when light bounce off your shirt, it takes the orange with you. Okay, so light hits you, right? And then if you're wearing a neon orange, it takes the neon orange and it shoots out onto whatever surface. So it hits the white wall will start showing that orange look. So ray trace is able to do light bounces. So it's a very accurate world kind of look. Okay, whereas that map is a simpler calculation. It's basically just calculate shadow and how much resolution is there. Are we using 1K map, 2K map, depending on the size? That's all. Okay, so it's very simple shadow calculation, and it's actually very close to your game engine. Game engines are not that complicated in that calculation. Okay, so because it has to respond to your input, right? Your character has to constantly run and fight people. So all these visual thing, they will tone it down. So that is when we will use that map. Alright, so let's use that map shadow instead of ray trace, and we're going to change, your default is ray trace. Alright, so we're going to change to that map, and for the resolution, let's use a very low res shadow. Let's use 64, which is very blocky. So the lower the resolution, right, the worse the shape is. For example, if I were to bump it up to 4K, you can see it's very accurate. Okay, but let's use 64, a very crappy looking shadow. Why? Because I want to start blurring out that shadow so it looks real. If you look at a shadow, right, it's not that harsh. Okay, unless it's afternoon sun, where the sunlight is over your head, then you can see your shape of the shadow is very nice. But if it's morning or evening, right, you see a very soft shadows, and soft shadows are what makes your object looks very pleasant looking. Okay, if you try shooting your friend in the afternoon sun, right, they actually look very old and very scary looking because there's like very dark shadow around the eyes. Okay, it's basically the ugliest moments. So the best moments to shoot your friend, right, is evening and morning. So you're gonna do your selfies, okay? These are the best time, but they are very short moments because sunset and sunrise is very short, okay? So these are all your golden moments, which we can recreate in 3D. So let's set a very low res 64 and let's blur it out with the filter size. Now you want to be very careful with the filter size. You don't want to just go all the way because it's going to increase the calculation. Every size you bump up is going to be more taxing on your comp. So we're just going to bring it to maybe 2. Okay. And then maybe for now I can even increase to 128. And then increase a little bit. So you want to just play around with the balance between the two, because if you go straight away to very nice shadows, you notice that your filter, right, cannot blur your shadows at all. Even if you set to 100, nothing happens. You can actually type it in, okay, if you feel that the slider cannot go beyond. So filter size cannot work if your resolution is too high. So we want to use like somewhere low, and then we want to just adjust. Okay, so find a good like medium between the two. Maybe, oops. Okay, for me, I think around 256 or lower would be nice. And then it starts to have no difference anymore once you try to bring up. So a filter size of 4. Yeah, filter size of 4, a resolution of 256 is good enough. So the resolution is dependent on the size of your game. So if your game is running on a like a HD size, right, 1920 size, and your character or the size of your shadow is very big, that means your character is right in front of the camera, you see a lot of the shadows, then you want to increase the resolution, otherwise you'll look very pixelated. This is actually the number of pixels your shadow contains. So you need to adjust according to your camera view itself. Okay, so once we have this, we're going to cast another light, okay, which is the fill light, and we're going to use that to lighten the shadow. So now the shadows are completely black, right? If you have any details here, you won't be able to see anything there. So let's do that right now. I'm just going to simply duplicate my key light, give it a name. So I'm going to call it fill light, Fill. And I'm going to just shift it aside, maybe somewhere around here, so visually I can see it. Remember, right, moving your light doesn't change anything, so we just want to move it away so we can see better. And now you want to start to move your light so that it's shining in the opposite direction from your camera. So it's the other 45 degree. You notice straight away your shadow is gray now because you have another light shining on your cast shadow right over here. So everything starts to look very gray, which is good. Okay, we want soft lightings like that. Now you might want to make sure that your key light itself is directly facing your object. That means you actually straighten your light, so it's shooting straight at your object so that you can shine some light underneath the donut. See that if you have the same angle, right, this part is very black, so you want to kind of rotate it so that you can see a little bit more detail. The fill light is there to fill in the details that you cannot see, so you just want to angle it so that you can see the correct amount of stuff. Also, make sure that the intensity is 0.5. So for our key light, right, we are using intensity of 1. For our fill light, we want it to be half the strength. That's usually, it's actually a formula, 3-point lighting. Okay, all you need to do is remember the formula, and more or less, right, your lighting will always be there. So fill light is just there to fill in the shadows. It's not there to tell you where the light is pointing at. Okay, you want your key light to be the main direction. So fill light is not there to steal the show, right? You have half the intensity. If you're not able to see like how the lighting affects the object, right, you just need to toggle the illuminate by default. Okay, so toggle this. You can kind of see what are the changes before and after, whether you like what you see. So you see all my cast shadow at the bottom disappears. Okay, you start to see more of the details of your object. Now there are some things that we want to turn off so that our users, right, won't know that we have two lights in our scene. Okay, I'm using a very shiny object, correct? So if you want, you can assign a blend. So let's assign a blend to our torus, make it shiny. Now, if you have two lightings in your scene, Yeah, if you have two lights in your scene, you will notice that there's actually two shiny areas. You see that we have we have the first shine here, the specular, and then once I put in my fill light, we have a second shine, which sometimes, right, this second shine kind of gives away, it makes it very obvious that there's actually two lights in the scene. There's also two shadows, if you notice, right? There's one here and there's one over here. See that? There's one very faint shadow. So all these things are very obvious that there's multiple lights. It only happens when you're on stage. Okay, when you're on stage, you look at the person standing there, you can see they have multiple shadows, which is very weird for like real life. We want to kind of tone it down and get rid of it. So for shooting, right, oftentimes in real life, they have to put a lot of lights to just get rid of additional shadows or tone it down by a lot. So in 3D, we are able to cheat the process, okay? So we can turn off things that we don't want. So the first thing I want to turn off is the specular for your fill light, alright? I want to turn off the specular so that there's only one specular in my scene. And I also want to turn off my shadow. So now, when you toggle the light, it's really working as a bounce light. There's no specular, there's no shadow, nothing. Okay, so just there to fill in the details. So last step is your rim light, right? So I'm just gonna again duplicate. So it's the same thing, alright? This rim light should not cast shadow. It should not cast any specular. We just want a plain like rim. That's all. So just duplicate, Command D. I'm gonna name this as rim light. Okay, and you want to position it at the back. So you use the perspective window as a way to like rotate your scene. So you get the feedback, the instant feedback from camera 1 itself. Okay, so camera 1, you don't really want to rotate your scene at all. So I'm just gonna turn my rim light around and I want to cast a lighting. So for rim light, you want to set it at 1 or even 2. Rim lights are very strong lights, okay, so you might want to just cast something stronger. I think 1.5 is a good start. Now if you can't see anything, usually my hack is to create a color. So I will change the color of my lighting so I can actually see where it's pointing at. So let's say I'm just going to put a blue, press OK. So with a colored light, right, you can actually see the feedback much easier compared to toggling the checkbox. So you just want to kind of shoot it down. You might even want it to be at an angle. I don't know. I think I want my rim light to come from this side, on my right side, and I want it to hit the top of the donut a little bit. Okay, you can even make your lighting a bit more intense. Okay, I can temporarily change it to 2 or 3. Just make it like really bright so you can see. So if you see a lot of digital painting, sometimes you can see like this pink color or blue color light at the hair, or even purple. So these are all like rim lights technique. You might wonder like, hey, why is there an orange light there? Where's the fire coming from? You know, that kind of thing. So, okay. Once you're done, you can change it back to white and tone down the lighting. So I'm just going to tone it back down to maybe 1.5 or 1. Okay, I think 1.5 is good. It's up to you. You might even consider putting the specular back in if you like the way it looks. Okay, to me, feel light if fill light has specular, it's a bit too much. Okay, so you might just want to turn away the fill light specular. For rim light, you might want to turn it back on so you can see more info. So a lot of things that we do, right, they're all aesthetic decisions. It's what makes your end result looks good. Like I said, that there's a formula to 3-point lighting, but after you know the formula, how can you break some of the rules to make your end result look even better? Okay, that part would be the artist's decision from your side. So once I have something like that, I think it's pretty cool. It's something that I like. Okay, make sure you turn off the shadow. So we don't want a shadow shooting in from the front. And that's it. That's our 3-point lighting. Okay, make sure you save your work. And we're going to start our next step, which is to take this image out as a render in After Effects. Okay, so we're going to take out the turntable. It's going to be something we put in a movie clip. So let's move on. Right, so the next thing we're going to do is to prepare for the image to come out. So every time before you prepare, do a quick scrub. Make sure that the lighting still looks good in 360, okay? As in when it spins, it still looks good. Look at the cast shadow on the ground. Make sure that it still looks good, alright? And I will leave it to you whether you want to keep the ground or not. But in my case, right, for our rocket, because it's flying, I'm going to just get rid of the ground. So the ground is just there for us to check the cast shadow and whether it looks good, the direction and things like that. Because it's very hard to see on our object itself. Okay, once we have everything settled, we can get rid of the ground. And I'm going to go back to my render. So far, we have been putting in lights, we have been doing a lot of things, but we haven't really seen our end result yet, right? So shall we go to the top here, and we have already tried the render setting. So now let's click on this eyeball. This is called the render view. It's sort of like Play Blast. Play Blast is to see a preview of your animation, correct? So this one is going to see a preview of your end result with textures, with lighting, how the final image looks like. And you can actually save the image from this file, and that could be part of your portfolio. Okay, so first thing is to make sure that we are rendering from the correct engine. So just now I talked a little bit about the engine, right? To calculate the light and to bring out the final image. So there used to be an engine called Mental Ray. So if you are doing internship for companies who are doing 3D, if they are using older versions of Maya, which is Maya 2016 and before, last year only, it's very new. Okay, they used to use something called Mental Ray. This is how you spell it. Okay, and you can create images like very cool images that can see all these global lights. Okay, can do a water scene, can do all the reflection. It's all done by Mental Ray. Right now, 2017, Mental Ray is being taken out of Maya. They switched to Arnold. Not oh, okay. Arnold. Arnold renderer, which are used to make a lot of your movies nowadays. Like, what movie is this again? I can't remember. Gravity. Do you all watch Gravity? No? Yes? How many things that Gravity is very scary to watch? No one? Really? You don't feel disturbed when you watch? I don't know. It's just something about space movies, right, that scares me like crazy. I think it's because it's so quiet. Yeah, it's unknown. It's quiet. And then I feel that if you die in space, right? That's it, it's like Yeah, nobody will know exactly. So when I watch space movie, to me it's the worst thing ever. So anyway, yeah, you can see Arnold is used in a lot of your newer movies these days. Okay, and it's also used to render hair. So there's a lot of comparisons. Okay, guys, you can actually take a look at some of the info here. There's a lot of like comparison between Manta Ray hair and Arnold's hair, and you know how they calculate lighting and things like that. So it's very deep. If you want, you can look at it. Arnold requires license, right? So we can't use that in school. So we're gonna use something called Hardware 2.0. Okay. Guys, Hardware 2.0, the purpose of this that Maya has created, right, is to reflect how it looks like in game engines. Basically, it means what you see is what you get. So technically, right, whatever that's in your scene right now is actually taking a screenshot in HD and then it's giving you that image. So because what you see in your viewport, okay, under your renderer in your viewport, it says viewport 2.0. This is also a new thing in recent versions of Maya, which means that if you do hair, you do shadow and all that, right, it's actually the final look already. You don't have to generate image to view. Last time in the past, right, when we create lighting and all that, we have to actually render, see the image. Oh, it doesn't look correct. Then we test again, render again. So there's a lot of back and forth. So 2.0 is basically game engine. Okay, what you see is what you get. Alright, so what you see in your view is technically the image. So let's use 2.0 to generate the final image, and we want to make sure that we render from camera 1. Right now, right, we are only rendering from perspective, so it's gonna look different. Once you click on it, you can see it generates your final image. You can actually click on the first button as well. This one. It's going to render your image straight away. Right? Okay, so this is your final lighting. And if you are cool with it, we are going to go ahead and generate the turntable. Alright, so this is your final feedback. If you feel that there's something wrong, you don't like it, then we would need to adjust again. Okay, so if you want to export your video, I mean your image, just go to File and then Save Image, and you can save it out on your desktop. Alright, so that's simple as that. But let's generate a video out of this. So I'm gonna go to my render settings now. So just now this render preview is there for you to see the end result. And it's also for you to export one single picture. But if we got 144 pictures, we're not gonna do that 144 times. Okay, it's crazy. So we're gonna go to the settings here, and we're gonna adjust some of the final look before we generate the pictures. So make sure you're in Hardware 2.0. Alright? And I'm gonna give my file name turntable. What you're essentially doing in this step, right, is you're creating 144 images at one go in order to put in After Effects. So you're going to generate something that looks like it looks like this. Okay, so you're going to generate all 144 images to put inside AE to compile as a final video that is going to play as your animation. Okay, it's going to play out something like this. right? So why are we doing this? Is in case, right, your comp dies or your comp ran out of battery halfway during the render. All you need to do is just restart your render at, let's say your comp dies at frame 55. The power cut, there's a thunderstorm and then power cuts. And then while you're doing your video halfway, right, it just dies out. So all you need to do is say, okay, Maya, can you resume creating images from frame 55? So you don't lose like 55 frames all at one go. You can just start from where you left off. Or let's say you're rushing for class and you need to stop the render, you can just stop it at halfway point. Right? So that's the idea of creating multiple images instead of one play blast or one video. Right, so let's name this turntable, and for our image we must use EXR. We must. Alright, otherwise the colors will look different. Right, and can you change the name single frame to extension? So these three, okay, give it a name, turntable, format EXR, and for the extension, use this one, name, number, extension. So what it does is every time it generates an image, it will call it turntable frame number 1 .exr, turntable frame number 2 .exr. So you just keep going all the way to the end. Okay, now let's go down to the bottom here and make sure our end frame is 144. And very importantly, our camera is camera 1. This is a very common mistake. Okay, last time I was doing animation whereby every picture takes about 1 minute plus or 3 minutes to render, somewhere around there. It's very, very long. So imagine if you got 144 frames, you are doing it overnight. But if we're using hardware, it's very fast. Okay, because it's just screenshots. But last time when we used Mental Ray, it's about 3 minutes per render, per picture. So we happily, right, forget about this. And then it was left at perspective. So when, after the next day, right, when we look at our image, like, oh no, it's all in some weird angle and we have to restart again. Okay, or sometimes we even forget to do the end frame and then we didn't get everything we want. So it's very important to make sure you check all these things. Okay, otherwise you have to redo again. Size we have set just now, so it's HD 1080. After that, press close. Once you're done, this is the best part, okay, where we sit back and relax. So let's change our menu set to rendering. So we are jumping around departments very quickly today. We were in animation. So now we need to go down to rendering, the last part. Go to render and then choose batch render. Oh, wait, stop. Create project first, okay? If you don't create project, it's going to throw all the 144 image somewhere on your comp and then you have to search for it. So let's go to file. Let's go to project window. I'm going to create new project. So let's call this turntable. I'm going to save it on my desktop. And make sure you do a file save again. File save scene as. Save it in the scenes folder. Once you are done, you can batch render. Okay, you automatically throw all your images into one of the folders. Create a project and then save scene as. Save it in the scenes folder. You can name it anything you want. Okay, once you batch render, it's gonna start to churn out images. How do you see this dialog box? You just need to go down to where the script is. Can you see there's some info here? Rendering percentage done, blah blah blah, right? So to the side, there is this little dialog box that looks like a code. If you click on that, it's basically going to open the same dialog box but bigger. So now you can see it slowly churning 144 images. So if your com is fast, right, it's going to do it very fast. If your com is slow, it's going to take a while, okay? And if your com hangs and dies at 66, you can always restart and go back to 66 and redo again. Alright guys, so once it's done, it will say rendering completed. And then whatever you want. And it will tell you, right, where it's saved in. It's inside the images folder. Okay, remember, anything that comes out of Maya is going to go into images. Anything that comes from you is source image. Okay, so you can see turntable dot number dot exr. That was the extension that we selected, right? The format. So done. Once done, hey, it's 12, right? So I'm going to speed up this last part very quickly. If you cannot catch up, just look at the, most likely you're going to look back again, right? Because you're not at this stage yet. So I'm just going to open up After Effects 2017. So After Effects is a program whereby you can create your smoke, your fire, your cloud, all your special effects, right? They are done in post-production in AE. Production means that you are doing the model, the texture, the animation, lighting, all these are production. Post-production means that you have the final movie cut out together, right? And then now you are throwing in effects. You are changing the color. You're doing some, like you're adjusting the contrast of the final movie. You're putting some, special colors and things like that. So those are post-production in movie, okay, or in any animation. For games, there is no post-production because technically after production, right, after programming, you have your game, okay? So post-production is more like marketing, promo, all these things are more like post-production stuff. Post-production, like creating posters, creating marketing content, maybe doing some walkthrough videos, those are your post-production. So games are technically quite different in terms of its definition of stuff. Okay, so I'm going to create a new project and I'm going to import in my images. Alright, so under import, you want to choose file, not multiple files. You just want to choose file. Okay, 1. And then wait for it. You want to look for your images folder. Okay, so you're going to see under your images folder, which is image that comes out of Maya, you're going to see a whole bunch of like 144 image, which you're not going to bring in one by one. All you need to do is select the very first one and then wait for my rainbow to stop spinning and then press open. It's gonna automatically know that you want to bring in all 144 based on the name, because it sees similar names, right? It's bringing in multiple images. So you can see the icon is not one but multiple. So when you double click it, you can actually preview your animation. Alright, it's still loading, so it's very slow. Okay, this is just a preview of your footage. This is not the final video. You cannot export this out. Can you? No, I don't think you can. I've never tried that before. Okay, so yeah, you can. Okay, so you need to create a new composition. It's sort of like an editing panel for you to cut and put things together. Okay, so I'm just going to create new composition, and you want to choose, you can give it a name, but usually I just leave it as default. This part of the process I'm very dirty, okay, I'm just like throwing in, you know, I'm not going to name and things like that because it doesn't really matter. Okay, it's just compiling a picture for your portfolio. So there's no other people to pass on to, so you don't have to be so tidy in that sense. You want to choose HD 1080 24 frames per second. Okay, so all these settings is default for me, and I think it's default because I set them before. So you just want to choose HD 1080 24, this one. Okay, and then you want to choose square pixels 24 frames, and the duration we want to set to 6 seconds. Okay, press OK. That's your new composition. Where to find it is under new composition, or you can always right click new composition. Alright, so I'm gonna double click, so you can see I'm actually not super familiar with AE. Just double click COM1. Okay, it's going to open up here, and all you need to do is click and drag your turntable into the composition, and you can edit. You can do whatever you want. You can add background, you can add your title page. Alright, so this whole thing is the timeline. So you press space bar to play it. It's going to take very long to render it out. So if you want to create a background, right now it's transparent, that's why it's black. So if you want to create a background, you just need to create a new solid. So the terms in AE are very different from what you're used to in like all your graphical programs. So they call a colored picture, right, solid. Alright, so just create a new layer called solid, and maybe you want to change the color, so up to you. So I'm just gonna put pink and drag it down so it's below the layer. If you want to create a gradient, right, like what I did for my rocket, then all you need to do is to select this solid layer, and if you open up the tab, you can see a lot of transform, like you can change the position, the scale, the size, and things like that. There's no gradient, right? So we need to add to it. So under layer again, you want to add stuff to that layer. You want to choose layer style. That's where your gradient is. Okay. So if you don't know where to find all these things, right, you can always like Google how do you create a gradient in AE, and then you get your information. Okay, that's how I get my info. So when I kind of forget or I'm not familiar with that. Okay, so you have your gradient here. You can change your gradient overlay. For example, you can edit the colors. So I'm just opening up the tabs and looking at for stuff. So you can kind of change your gradient. Like for example, the second color, I want a darker pink. Okay, I want to swap. Things like that. And there you go. Okay, so there are so many things that you can do in AE that I can't cover in class. You can create your own title page, you can edit and things like that. So go explore. This is really a very cool program. Last thing that I want to show you that is more important is how to generate a movie clip. All these are inside your video tutorial, so don't have to worry too much. So I'm going to just do a composition. We are just really creating stuff from these two tabs. Layer, to add stuff to the layer itself. Composition, to basically, you know, set up the editing workspace. So now I want to create a movie out of the composition, right? So I want to add the composition to a render queue. Okay. And then it starts to go to the second tab. So you have two tabs here. I closed it. You have COM1 and then you've got render queue. Okay, why did I do that? Let's delete this guy. Can I delete? No. Okay, never mind. So I just uncheck this one. Okay, so I have COM1 that's queued. So the first thing is you want to change the settings. Alright, so best settings, click and then just do a quick check. So they are generally okay, 24 frames. For some reason, right, it doesn't go up to 6 seconds. This is something that I'm quite perplexed over, so I don't know why. Okay, then lossless. This is when you start to set based on your assignment requirements. So let's pop back in. Let's look at what is needed for your stuff. Assignment 1. Okay, so you're supposed to create a HD video, 24 frames per second, using H.264 format in MOV. So QuickTime is MOV, alright. Then MOV is like the file type for your video. Okay, so for Mac, right, we can view MOV on QuickTime. For VLC, of course, VLC is the software that you watch all your video. Okay, so yeah, MOV is like a type of video. So of course you have AVI and MP4 and things like that. Okay, so different types of video format. So QuickTime is one of them. So under the format, we are looking for the encoder, the codec. Codec is the thing that compresses your video. You can't be playing like 3 gigs of video on your com. 3 gigs that is only like 1 minute long, or 6 seconds is already 3 gig. That's ridiculous, okay? Your com cannot play at such speed. So codec is technically just to compress. So we are going to choose H.264. There's actually a lot of different compression types. H.264 is used widely in many different formats, but one of them is YouTube. YouTube uses H.264 a lot. Okay, so in fact I think most platforms and TV series, I believe they use H.264. Okay, so bring to 100% for quality and press OK. So once you have all these things there, just do a quick check, everything is fine. Audio, if you have music, right, use 48 gigahertz. Okay, stereo 16-bit and press OK. So last thing, output to Taurus turntable to your desktop in MOV format. And that's it. So you're just kind of just adjusting these 3 things here. Okay, and then just press render and wait. So the last part of Maya is basically to wait a lot. They batch render, you have to wait. Generation of your video, you have to wait. So, but this is technically the end.